If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Blah blah blah, blah blah.
Sending out good vibes,
Blah blah blah,
good vibes,
blah
good vibes,
blah blah.
good vibes, good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection, and put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track, shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grand America Show. Coming at you this week with Cliff Dunning from the Earth Ancients. Of course, he does some trips to Egypt like we did, so we were able to talk a lot of the same lingo there. And he's also doing some stuff down in Mexico, which I actually think I will join him for eventually, although I can't do it this year because there's a conflict with one of our events, which you guys should come to up in Canada. Flagship Canada event in pristine Canadian mountains. But I think I'm going to check it out. So it's looking like a good one. And we got everybody's favorite podcaster, Graham. I don't do the time change Dunlaw. Two balls aren't real.
Except I feel like I do. Everybody's changed now. My relation to everybody else has changed, even though my time doesn't change.
Yeah, but who cares about that? That wouldn't bother you if you weren't a podcaster and B unemployed.
What?
Ish, you know what I mean? Like you don't have like, if your time changed, it wouldn't really affect you as much because you would just wake up when you wake up and go to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like it just sucks for people. Like I have to. I mean, I don't have a super strict start time, but the kids do. So we all have to get. We were a little late this morning because they're slow moving because it's an hour earlier and it's dark.
Yeah.
It's too bright. And,
Yeah.
I am enjoying the extra time in the evening.
Well, yeah, it is weird. You're right. It doesn't, I'm not talking about a physical effect at all on me at all. There's nothing physical, but it's just the scheduling aspect of it. Cause now all of a sudden I'm on your time again. So now our time is the same.
Except you didn't have to get up earlier today.
That doesn't, it's not a physical thing for me.
It's physical for the rest of us.
I know. So I do like that part of it. I like how Saskatchewan sort of went, forget this, and they just stopped doing it.
Hopefully we get there, but
yeah.
Last time they wanted to stay on this time, so it would have fucked everything right up because in the winter it'd be dark till like 10 in the morning. It's like,
right, okay, yeah.
You got to stay on the other one. You know, the one that's just used to be normal for fucking 100 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. How is Saskatchewan? You haven't left for a while.
It's good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's okay.
Settled into Saskatchewan life as a Saskatchewaner.
No, man, it's just hardly any different. I mean, I just work from home all the time, and don't get out and do much right now. But the snow's melting. It's going to warm up, so I do feel like spring is in the air, and then there'll be lots to do. There's lots to do around the house.
Our snow almost all melted already. It's like fast. There's a huge, because it got warm and windy. So, and the ground kind of thawed last time around. It kind of got warm. So the ground kind of thawed. So this time it warmed up just for like 2 days. Now it's been warmer. It kind of warmed up Friday, I guess, and Saturday, Sunday, so maybe 3 or 4 days. And dude, like there's like a pond in the back corner of the one pasture that's gotta be, I bet you if went up to the mill, it's 3 feet deep.
3 feet deep. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
I was thinking what I should be doing is I'm not like set up for it now, but what you want to do is like, because that ground's just going to sit there for a while, it's going to slowly seep into the same spot and it'll just be kind of swampy there all year. What you need is just a bunch of jugs, a bunch of big plastic jugs, and you just sump pump that shit right now into your big giant jugs. And then in another month, when everything's thawed, you like dump that all out on the other side on all the high ground, that isn't getting any water, because all the low ground's going to get water anyway. I can pump that thing fucking empty right now, and then it's still going to end up with all the the rest of the melt and rain and everything from the spring. But I could steal like 10,000 gallons right now. You know,
Huh.
but
And
I'm
you
not
use
ready
it
for
to,
that.
use
But
it
I
to
can see
water
this
like
system where I could use the low spots of the property, not my property, the property in spring,
yeah.
and use that to fill up a bunch of giant things. And then in a month, because we can't do much with it, it's just dirty old water. But you could use it to water the high ground. So you just transfer all that water onto the high ground in a month when it can actually take properly, and you'd be off to a real good start. Mind you, we're so low and close to the lake. Like we're only half mile from the lake. So it's like foggy here all the time. So
Wow.
like it's like every morning it's gonna get the dew. I'm in a low enough swell in the prairies that it gets very dewy in the morning. So I think everything will just sort of water itself. So I'm
Wow,
hoping.
interesting.
I do have to
Is that
keep
going
the
to affect the
backyard
sunrise and the sunset then?
What?
Is that going to affect the sunrise and the sunset? Like, is it with a block? It gets foggy to the point where it blocks out a bit, or?
Well, it's not really foggy in the summer. I guess it's like foggy in the winter and in the fall and the spring. I don't even know if it's foggy in the spring so much, but it's still dewy. You know, you still get the dew, whether it's foggy or not. You just can't see it.
Yeah.
I guess it's never really foggy in the summer. You know, I can't think any time it's been like, dude, sometimes when I go in the fall, when I'm going hunting, like when we go to Badger Lake, sometimes we got to go down to like 20 kilometers an hour because you can't see shit. You literally can't see. You could drive off. I can't see the side of the fucking road.
Yeah.
And you think no big deal. It's the prairies. You just go off the side back on. But you could hit a fence. And dude, sometimes when you're going across the prairies, if it's like uncultivated grassland where people are just like letting cows run and shit, you could be doing a road where they just like filled in a giant coulee. So it's basically like not a coulee. It wouldn't be a coulee. It's just like a pothole, you know, just like the whole prairie is just littered with these potholes that are, it's not like if you were on a hill, it's probably a couple 100 feet deep. Like if you go up to the hill, a mile up the road from me, a mile up and half up the road from me, you can see downtown Calgary, and you're probably fucking 1,000 feet almost up from my house. Not that much. That's probably exaggerated. A good 500 or 600 though, like a high rise, you know, taller than a high. Maybe it is 1,000 feet because those high rises are 700. So it's probably 1,000. There's 1,000-foot hill next to my house, but you can't really tell because it's the prairies and it takes you 3 miles to get up to the top of it. But you can see downtown and all around from up there. So when, you know, there's those big hills in the prairies, if you like drove off the side of one of those, man, it would be like not a good scene. You'd roll a bunch.
Yeah. Well, plus there's also huge rocks everywhere, and there's erratics, right? Isn't there? I mean,
nah, most of the erratics have been cleared out for the everything. They just get in the way of all the.
No, but I thought you meant. No, I thought you said I'm talking about the uncultivated.
Well, uncultivated, I just mean like not because anywhere they're growing crops, they've kind of flattened out. So there's not this extreme, like you can't drive off the hill in the prairies and it's like 80 feet down or 100 feet down. But when they're just running cattle, they do.
Yeah.
Because the cattle just go up and down. The cattle kind of seem to like those things sometimes if it's like windy or some shit, you know.
Right, right.
You can really see the horses around here like reacting to the wind. So,
yeah,
it's interesting.
Well, there's the little homestead update.
I seen Dune too. We're making a tree for it. We got all sorts of homestead stuff going on.
Nice.
Yeah.
You saw Dune 2? Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I was pleasantly surprised.
Wow, that's good.
I was kind of expecting it to be good because the first one wasn't terrible. Buddy's kind of a bitch. I just had the one Liet Kynes, you know, that he was a chick. But other than that, it's been pretty good. I gotta say, there was no wokeness in the second half that I caught.
Oh, that's good.
It was just like a nice, fun movie-going experience with no bullshit.
Yeah, that's great. Could I go see it if I hadn't seen the first one yet? Like,
why wouldn't you just watch the first one? It's on like.
I'm just asking you because like Maria, she doesn't want to watch the first one. So
no, course not. I mean, I would argue you should have read the books.
Well, yeah,
The only way you're really gonna grasp the full storyline.
I think I tried
Right.
as a kid, and I just couldn't get into it as a kid.
Yeah, you're into that gay Star Wars stuff instead. You know, this is a
No,
little more hardcore.
fantasy,
It's a little more.
Lord of the Rings, like fantasy stuff.
Oh, that's still kind of gay. Anyway, I think you should just watch the first one because otherwise you'd be coming in the second one and it's just going to be like a lot of questions.
Okay.
What's going on here? I mean, I
Yeah.
went to the first one, but Shauna hadn't read the books and there was a lot of questions. We didn't go to the first one. We watched the first one at home because you could just watch that shit on like Amazon
It's Prime.
Prime.
It's Prime. It's Prime. It's a rental on Prime. Prime's doing a bunch of rentals now too.
Oh yeah, you know what? I bought it because it was on sale for I could either rent it for $5.99 or I could buy it for $6.99. So I bought it.
What?
Yeah.
That seems ridiculous. Why would you not buy it? And then you could just watch it anytime.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, it's like they got us somehow along the way because if I was like, I think to myself all the time because I was looking at my like extensive, like mostly YouTube. I got a lot of Prime stuff too. But for the most part, I try and stick to YouTube to keep it in one place. And because YouTube has everything, Prime doesn't always have everything, but I've yet to not find a movie that I wanted to rent or buy on YouTube.
What? Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I don't think people really know that or use it for that.
Yeah, that's where I got the first season of Game of Thrones. That's where I got all my parks and anything that I can't just find if I can't find it because the stuff's on the streamers and off the streamers for free. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. If you go into Amazon Prime, it always wants you to sign up for these stupid sub things and you forget you're signed up.
Then you got all these.
Dude, I fucking accidentally signed up to Stack TV and it was $29.99 a month or some crazy shit. I'm like, this is more than fucking cable was back in the day. This is nuts. So you sign up for the free trial and you forget. So I just stick to YouTube really, which is weird. I know everyone hates YouTube. It's hard for us to hate YouTube because we do have other businesses that are less controversial that we're in bed with them. But I mean, even when I hated YouTube and we didn't have that go on the audiobook channel, stuff like that, it's still just, my kids are on it all the time. I have YouTube Premium. It's a handy feature. It's my go-to. I don't do a lot of video. I'm not a video guy. I don't spend a lot of time watching TV. But if I need to learn how to do something, it's fucking YouTube. Oh shit, this thing broke. Okay, how do I fix it? How do I stop this from happening? How a lot of my YouTube searches start with how to. And then the odd stuff like my shows. But if I need something, I've always just gone to YouTube and I used to rent it, but now I just buy it. But dude, I used to maybe even when we started the show, I used to like steal everything, or hack it through the dude, I used to have back in the day when you had the direct TVs, had the little cards you had to constantly update so you could get free satellite dish.
Yeah.
Then I had all the jailbroken stuff. And then, I just got sick of it and I don't watch enough TV to care. It's just, here's your $10 or $5 and
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they got me or if it's, what it's a consequence of, but now I just buy all this digital stuff. I just don't, I also just not worth fucking $5 of my time. My time is too valuable to try and, that might be the big one, is it's just not worth my time to try and get a free movie.
It's a convenience thing. Yeah. So YouTube, you don't rent them, you buy them on YouTube then?
I buy it all, then I just have it. Yeah, it's just there.
So how much is a movie on YouTube? Let's say, you didn't watch Dune 2 on YouTube, did you?
I don't know. I had to watch Dune 2 in the theater.
Oh, sorry. I mean, Dune 1.
It was $6.99 because it was on sale.
And you bought it on YouTube. I thought you were talking about Prime.
I can't remember. That one might have been Prime. I can't remember because Shauna did it.
Okay.
No, it must have been YouTube because I had to do the scan the QR code thing. So it was YouTube. I bought it on YouTube. And then I have Game of Thrones on YouTube and all my Parks and Rec, all The Office. I just like to have it so I don't have to look for it. It's just there. It's mine. Yeah, a lot of YouTube. And no, I think that's all I really got to say about that. Bada bing, bada boom. It was good though, but you should just watch the first one. You could,
Yeah, I will. I
you
will.
know,
I will. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
otherwise
Well, I
it'll
get some,
be
I got some emails from some listeners to go through. I got a long trip report for you, and so we can talk about some donations as well, or we can talk about the Cosmic Summit and your trip potentially to the UK and the eclipse coming up. What do you want to do?
Well, I am definitely going to go to the UK. That's I've
good.
decided that's definitely happening. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm definitely
You know,
going to
it's just-
Cosmic Summit.
really, it was the flights that were scaring me off, and then I've decided that fuck it, I can pull it off. So I'm going to go to the Tychos thing with Mike and the missus. We will go to the UK. I'm going to go, I think, on the 11th or 12th. I'm going to go on the 12th. Get there on the 12th and spend the week there before. Tony's going to take some time off. I think he said he's going to take some time off. Tony the Fag from the UK is going to take some time off.
I think you got to say the whole thing.
Tony the Faggot is going to take some time off and show us around. So, I might make a list of some things I want to go see. I don't know what we'll have time to go see. I got to get actually a chat in with Tony. Maybe I'll call him one day before and make a good plan. But I definitely want to go see the museum this time.
So is there a meetup anywhere besides the thing you're going to for the UK posse? Like anybody that wants to show up and say hi to you?
I haven't got there yet, so I haven't made a decision. But if I do, it'll probably be that Sunday, I guess. Probably
What's
the Sunday.
Date? What's the date on that
I'm
then?
gonna come home on Monday, and the conference is Friday. Or I think, or maybe the Friday night. Maybe the Friday night. The Friday night. 14th,
The 14th of June would be the meetup?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm definitely going to Cosmic Summit. I want to talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, so we do have. I will mention before you read the note, which was I forget his name. I guess you'd have his name. I don't have it in front of me. You'd have his name on the email, but he did send us $50 as well. So that was a big thank you for that. And we did get a couple new signups. So Pablo, thanks to Pablo who signed up on Patreon for $5.55, and Joe Dunn, which is why I fucked up the intro as well, because I was screenshotting that while I was doing it too. So Joe Dunn also signed up for $5 a month. So
all right,
an extra $10 a month. You guys don't know how huge that is, but that's a measurable percentage increase. The support for this show is down well under $1,000 a month, I'm sure. So whatever you can do to help us there, we would appreciate it. And we will tell people and thank you on the show and read your note, whatever we got to do. Grandma SUD. Suck dick for cock. What else do we got? That's about it. We're not doing that one anymore. Now you seem embarrassed whenever I bring that up. But for a while, it was like,
oh, it's hilarious. It's just not on the show. I mean, you don't want to say it on the show.
What do you mean? You said it on the show a million times.
Do you think so?
Oh yeah. Shauna would always comment about it. She's like,
really?
You sound so awkward saying it.
Sounds so what? Awful?
Awkward.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
because you don't really ever swear on the show, and then you just go on this suck dick for cock tangent for 6 weeks where you're just gonna get enough. Right?
A weird thing to talk about.
Where did it come from?
It was well, I don't want to say it. It was a viral video where a guy was sort of getting chucked around, and he was kind of being oppressed, and he was saying you can't sort of hurt me, and I suck it for cock, that kind of thing. To me, it sort of means it started to have different meanings to me.
There you go.
Anyways.
Yeah. So support the show, guys. Grimerica.ca/support if you can today. You can sign up for a monthly there. You can do a one-time donation, Stripe, PayPal, you name it. We got it. Let us know if you want to send cash, whatever you want to do. We will find a way to accommodate you, because this is not a free show. If you're really getting some value from all these shows, 646, this is episode 646. They're all there, all for free. We never missed a week. If we're getting some value from that, you should be sending some value back. America.ca/support. So support the show, please, motherfucker.
Did you say you can share the show too? Send it to friends and all that? You can send me an email.
You can send an email. You can share the show. All that is important. But, all that stuff should go without saying. You guys should be doing all that already. Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Come on.
Okay, here's the email from our $50 supporter. It's a trip report because you're asking for trip reports. You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Good day, Graham and Darren from San Clemente, California. I heard Darren mention recently that there's not been a trip report for a while, and I knew I had to chime in. I've been experimenting with the fungus lately. I'll be 50 at the beginning of June. Let me begin my story in December of last year. I was in a shop searching for a Christmas present. As I was looking around, I saw this beautiful stone, so I picked it up. When I did, I felt a little electric sensation in my hand. Not a jolt or anything like that, but a small current like that of a low 9-volt battery or something similar. It was the first time I'd ever had the experience picking up a rock. I had heard of people saying that the stone spoke to them, or people say that they felt the crystal's energy, but I personally had never experienced that. I always figured, yeah, maybe, but those people need a little too much. In the end, the stone was labradite, and I went on a crystal binge. I know what that's like, buddy.
A
I haven't
crystal
got
bin.
that. Yeah, I don't know where mine are. They're packed away somewhere. When I do this, I'm by myself. Oh, hang on. Oh, yeah. Fast forward a couple months. I've been going through some major shifts in understanding. I've crawled over the wall and I'm upgrading my ideas, and I do believe that my trips have been a part of it. I've been taking what I consider to be a rather large dose of mushrooms. Or actually, it says doses. I'm not sure of the weight, as I do not weigh what I ingest. I use intuition when it comes to this. Oh boy. I will usually just eat the fruit. I put it in my mouth whole and chew it and swallow. 2 or 3 mouthfuls usually does the trick. If I had to make a good guess, I would say I'm averaging in between an 1/8 and a 1/4 ounce, so somewhere between 3.5 and 7 grams. Last time I tried brewing a tea, I liked this method. I still ate the fruit as well, but it was easier to get down with the hot water for sure. So what is that? Does that ring any bells to you at all? Like resonate with that amount? Couple mouthfuls?
Yeah, I could see it. Makes sense. I mean, it all all bets are off after a gram. You just don't know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
I've had a gram before, and like, holy fuck. This isn't supposed to be happening.
When I do this, I am by myself in my room with everything off. I unplug the router, turn off my phone, turn off the lights, and lay on my bed for 4 to 5 hours. In preparation for this, I also like a cup of coffee, as I like the small stimulant as well. The second and most important preparation is somewhat of a headstone of crystal. I've never heard of or seen anyone use crystals in this fashion. I have seen, just this is me talking now, I've seen people do grids, like crystal grids and stuff for meditation, not necessarily specifically for shrooms, but for meditation. I've heard of people using crystals for healing and such, but not like what I am doing. I would love for someone else to try this method and share the results. I'm taking rather large crystals and arranging them in somewhat of a triangular fashion. I use my pillows to prop up a 13-pound amethyst backbone point in the center. I place a large 37-pound smoky quartz on one side and a 10-pound white quartz on the other. I also place kyanite and fluorite adjacent to the amethyst. The labradite is placed on either side under the quartz. I've been experimenting with different crystals and arrangements. The setup that works best is the one center and other things on various levels on either side. Here's a little video that I made describing the setup, meditation, crystals, healing, cleansing, February 18th, 2024. I'll put that in the show notes. When I do this, I light incense and give thanks. I turn off everything, get naked, and lay under the covers with my head lying on the middle crystal. I don't know exactly how to describe the sensation. It seems like the crystals act as some sort of antenna or frequency magnifier, streaming energy into my mind and body. An immediate slight buzzing sensation is noticeable in my temples. After 10 or 15 minutes, I will achieve a deep meditative state, at which point I begin to feel a physical sensation like I've never felt. The first time it felt kind of like someone was using that tool in the Matrix movie where they take that worm thing out of Neo's belly and use it on my mind, like a force of energy was, like a magnet or vacuum pulling out thoughts and debris and clutter out of my mind and spirit. It felt similar to cleaning fish tank glass with a couple of magnets on either side of the glass. Just pull the magnet over the glass and remove the algae. It felt like that in my skull. Over the next few weeks, the experience was the same, but different. It felt as though my mind and soul were being defragmented like an old school hard drive. I was trying to describe my experience to a friend. When telling him, I realized that I felt as though I was being communicated to. I said to him voices at one point. Then I said voice. At the time, I was not exactly sure if it was one voice or multiple. This was not audible outside. This is a trip report after all. Over the course of the next couple experiences, I realized it was myself that was talking to me. I told myself that I was finally ready to be able to handle, that I was the one in my head doing everything. I was looking up and I could see myself looking down at me, working on my head. I could feel the entity move my head from side to side and do whatever he or I was doing. It was odd. I was outside of myself and inside of myself at the same time. The last couple of times I know that I was actually physically healed myself in some way. So he's saying here that he actually physically healed himself.
I've heard that before.
Not like my arm was broken and now it's not, but like a tattered sweater that is being mended. In fact, I went in wanting the communication. I don't go in looking for anything specific. It is a method of meditation where I simply let my mind wander without direction. The moment you make an active choice to think about something, you break the state. I don't know how else to say it. If you know, you know. Anyway, me seeing myself was 2 times ago. During this, I had gases escaping through a cavity I have on a molar and out of my gums, all the way around, as well as bubbles escaping from my eyeballs. I could hear and feel the gases slowly escaping like methane from a hot spring. I could feel the energy or poison or whatever literally escaping from my body. Up and down my spine and my shoulders, pressure was relieved. At the end, I actually felt like I had a physical massage that had rubbed out the knots in my neck and shoulders. This time, just give me a sec here. This is his last time. It was this past Thursday. This last time was this past Thursday. I was basically told that I didn't need the communication and I should just get into healing. My eyes began to water profusely. Not just a tear or two. I'm talking streaming down the sides of my face and puddling on the sheet. My sinuses emptied as well. These symptoms were not just in my head. I could feel and see the effects after the experience. It has been quite wonderful. I would love to hear anyone else's experiences with this sort of thing. Heard of crystal healing, but never seen what I am experimenting with. Someone else out there has had to have done this. My next phase is incorporating copper. I want to make some sort of Tesla coil crown to wear at the same time and see if that does anything. I got my copper yesterday. I'm going in about once a week, maybe every 2. Thanks for all your work. You are appreciated. Sincerely, Russ. So, what are your thoughts, Darren?
Once a week might be pushing it. But no, that all sounds great. I mean, who am I to judge? It's a bit much for me. I like maybe, a couple times a year, but whatever floats your boat. I mean, it sounds fun. Keep us updated.
Yeah, I like the experimental aspect of it. I mean, and the healing part. I mean, just imagine like you go in there and they say, no communication this time, just healing. And then you start pouring out all your fluids. Crazy.
On your discharges. All right, guys. So speaking of support the show, I forgot to mention some other ways you can support the show for free and get audiobooks for free. Maybe. You can't get it if you're in Canada. If you're in Canada, you can go to the YouTube channel. Of course, you can get our stuff there. I heard a lot of people like to listen to Graham while they sleep. So maybe if you like to listen to audiobooks while you sleep, that's something you could do. And it helps support us in a small way. And another thing that supports us in a bigger way, and you get audiobooks for free if you're in the US, UK, or Australia, I believe, and you have Spotify Premium, you can go to adultbrain.ca and click on the Spotify tab, and it'll take you to a playlist of all of our books where you can get them for free. I believe you can get like a book a month for free on Spotify, or maybe you get 15 or 20 hours a month, or I don't know how it works exactly, but you get access to the books for free to a certain extent. Most of the books are less than 15 hours. I don't know exactly. Let us know, because in Canada, it's not a thing yet. So you let us know how it works exactly. But I've had multiple people tell me that they can get the books for free. And
How many do you think are on there?
100.
Most of them have made it to Spotify. That's pretty good.
The playlist I've got so far is 95, and I
95.
haven't like had a chance to cross reference it because then I ended up like clicking on the same ones over and over, and they were already in the playlist. So I got to like get it
You gotta
together.
cross-reference it first, then cherry
Because
pick
the
one.
search sucks. It's not like Audible where the search is just like search adult brain publishing and they all come up. Spotify, whatever I put in, it's coming up with a million different things mixed in with it all. But I got 95 of them into that playlist. So if you click on that Spotify tab, they'll all come up. You can listen to them for free. And we get paid, depending on how long you listen. If you listen to a full book, that's great for us. If you listen to a few minutes of a book, it's by the minute. I think it's by 10 percentiles. So you have to listen to at least 10% of the book for it to register.
Interesting.
Point ones, but I don't know how it's picking that up. It could be taking a bunch of people's 0.0005s and adding them up to a 0.1, and that's just the smallest it registers to us. But anyway, that kind of doesn't really matter. What matters is you can listen to the books for free and it supports us. And it's actually not a bad turnover for us. So if you like listen to the books there, that's one of the best ways to support us through the audiobooks is either that or directly through the Adult Brain podcast. Those are the two big ways I would say. But yeah, that's another one. Maybe while you're sleeping, just stream some audiobooks and we're getting paid.
Well, yeah, exactly. And you've done a great job at updating the adultbrain.ca website. I mean, that's where all our audiobooks are now on this website. And he's got tabs at the top to go to Adult Brain, the premium for the podcast, Patreon, YouTube, Spotify, Audible, Bandcamp. And lately he just put out the Rosicrucian Mysteries from Max Heimdall. And we also have Fulcanelli, Le Mystère de Cathedral. That's the Master Alchemist book. And a bunch of other new ones. So, yeah, check it out. Awesome job on the website.
It's looking good. Check it out, guys. Sign up. Like I say, listen on Spotify. If you go to the website, you can get everywhere else. You can get the books, any place. There's a link right to the books on Audible. There's a link right to the books on Spotify, the Patreon, the Bandcamp, and wherever place else too. But those are kind of the two big ones. And like I say, I know there's a ton of people in the audience that have Spotify Premium already. So that's just a way that costs you nothing. That A, you can get the books, which is cool. And B, it supports us, which is even cooler. So tell that, that's a big one to share. That's a big one to share. If you share that you can share the audiobooks with arguably a shitload of people that might not be into the podcast.
Right.
It opens up your shareability market a lot. You don't have to ask them to buy anything if they're on Spotify already. You can just send them that playlist, or you can send them to the YouTube channel, or you can send them to buy them too. I mean, that's fine too. Remember, if you are signed up for the podcast, you get 3 different books every month for free too. So there's that. But I'll quit rambling. We'll get on with it. We'll get moving towards the interview portion of the show. Do you have a bio?
Well, yeah, but I gotta talk about the Cosmic Summit here, and I got an email from our other podcast, Grimerica Outlawed. I'll read it here if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'll save another one for next week. But it says, "Good morning. I'm a faithful listener and reader of your podcast. The chemistry you guys have on air is bar none, and it is really a treat to listen to. I'm down here in the U.S., New England, near Boston or Providence. I was wondering if you heard anything about what?
Bastion.
I was wondering if you heard anything about the explosion in Detroit recently. You could literally see canisters full of something go hurling through the air for hours. Recent news reports claim it was actually vape pens. These explosions leveled over 2 blocks of warehouses. But something tells me vape pens did not cause this. When digging, I realized there is union representation of just about every industry, chemicals, autos, you name it. So this sounds like a classic example of unions writing the narratives. Our schools down here are greasier than Graham's hair.
Ha!
I got a little synchronicity about that.
I've been called a greasy-haired fuck before.
Hey, this is by a listener, not my ex-wife.
Bada bing.
You know what's weird is I was like actually debating what cream to use in my hair because I didn't want it to look greasy. I was trying to make it not look greasy, and I changed it up that day. And obviously it didn't work.
Huh.
Interesting, eh? Kind of a synchronicity. I was literally thinking about my hair.
You knew your hair was greasy. It doesn't.
Exactly.
Is that a synchro?
Well, I'm trying to put some product in when it's dry, right? So it doesn't look all slimy and greasy. So it just looks like fuller because, I'm losing it as well.
I can't remember the last time I put product in my hair.
Well, mine goes crazy if I don't.
Mine is a little crazy.
Yeah. Love listening to your show. Keep up the good work, guys, that you guys bring to the table. I would recommend everyone subscribe to extra content because you bring the receipts. By the way, who sings that song on the fade out each episode? It's such a catchy little tune. I learned it on guitar and play it for my young boys. They really like it as I do.
Felix Ortega. True North.
No, I think it's the True. Didn't you say it was the True North one?
Yeah, True North. Felix Ortega. That's who sings.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought True North was the band.
No, that's the song. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It seems like he wrote it for us in a lot of ways.
Right. So while you're in the UK, I'm going to go to the Cosmic Summit. So I just want to talk to everybody about this event. It reminds me of old events that you and I used to go to like 10 years ago, but this is like the Cosmic Summit 2024, a new dawn of an old age, and it's back. So last year was successful. Curious humans from 12 nations and 42 U.S. states gathered for a remarkable intellectual and interpersonal journey at the Cosmic Summit in Asheville. So this year, it's going to be in Greensboro for an extraordinary gathering, North Carolina. We are extending an invitation to hundreds of global attendees to explore additional jaw-dropping Earth and human history insights. More attendees, more speakers, and more captivating information as well. All shared with like-minded individuals in a relaxed and affordable setting. So I'm just going to read some topics here. Once again, the Cosmic Summit will deep dive the latest discoveries on the well-published Younger Dryas Impact event, more recent cosmic impacts, a suspected lost civilization, Clovis people, the Black Mat, megafaunal extinctions, Göbekli Tepe, forgotten ancient technologies, controversial archaeology, Atlantis, megalithic monument building, the Knights Templar, sacred geometry, Egyptian mysteries, UFOs, old and cold fusion, catastrophic geology, Carolina Bays, and more. I mean, that sounds fantastic. Lots of the stuff we talk about here on the show all the time. So I'm going to put a link in the show note. It's cosmicsummit.com. And we do have a code if people want to get a discount. It's not for us. It's for you, the listener. CS5184 gives you a discount. And I'm going to this. Look forward to meeting some people there. It's going to be a great conference. Got Luke Caverns, Hugh Newman, Johanna James, Randall Carlson, Scott Wolter, Praveen Mohan, Ben Van Kerkwick, Dr. Kenneth Tankersley, Mark Young, Stephen Collins, Bob Greenier, Chris Cotterill, Jordan Collin, Timothy Hogan, Haley Ramsey. I mean, this is going to be just fantastic. Micah Hanks, Adam Young, Russ Allen, Alan West, Chandra Wickramasinghe, Adam Young, Brad Young, Joanne Ballard, Martin Sweatman. So it's gonna be a doozy. So get your tickets. You get a discount, like 15% off.
There you have it, guys. Get on. We're not making any money on that. So that is just for you guys. It's not it's just straight up you get the money off. We don't get nothing. If you want to send some of that money you save back to us in the form of donation, that'd be great. We'd appreciate it, but you don't have to. And we just wanted to save you guys some money. We had the opportunity to save Grimerica listeners some money on the event, and we wanted to do it. So there it is. Check it out.
I'm looking forward to going. It's gonna be great.
And Graham's getting out into the wild. So imagine that. You could touch his greasy hair before it's all gone. Check out his lopsided boobs. Anyway, do you have a bio for Cliff?
Cliff, yes. Earth Ancients, startling new discoveries from our planet's distant past. Is the creation of author, producer, and research investigator Cliff Dunning, a former program director for the Learning Annex, Whole Life Expo, and numerous national conferences. He developed a keen awareness for provocative subjects on our planet's known and unknown civilizations, and the thousands of anomalous archaeological discoveries which are not covered by conventional science and the media. Possessing a deep understanding for ancient wisdom traditions, the human potential movement, topics on personal growth and spirituality, he introduces programs which are ahead of their time, controversial, and thought-provoking. He's the author of the soon-to-be-released Black Knight Satellite and a regular contributor to Earth Ancients blog and articles which are read by thousands of people each week. He studied illustration at the Academy of Art College in Long Beach State and holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Marketing. He resides in San Fran. So there you have it. Check out earthancients.com.
There you have it, guys. And enjoy the chat. Other than that, that's all we got. Enjoy the chat with the wonderful Cliff Dunning.
And we're here with Cliff Dunning. Thanks for joining us, Cliff. How's it going?
Hey guys, great. Sitting here in Northern California, we just had what they call atmospheric river nail it. Yeah, like 3 inches in about an hour, which is getting up there in terms of record. But
I love the new names. I love the new names they're coming up with for these.
Can you believe that name? It's a great name, though.
Yeah, atmospheric rivers. Well, we don't get those in Canada because it gets too cold. You know, we have polar vortexes and stuff like that. So,
but are they making up names for some of the extreme conditions? Like, I mean, atmospheric river. They're making it sound like it just, it's been around forever, but it hasn't.
Well, we had the new one this year. Well, not the new one, the old one. They brought back El Nino.
Oh, El Nino's been around.
I remember that back in the early 2000s, maybe even before that. It might have even been in the 90s when I was still in like high school. They were like talking about El Nino, and I was like, didn't really know what was going on. But someone said, I heard the other day that that's why we're having such fair weather here in Alberta, is because it's an El Nino year, something like that. And I was like, well, everyone's telling me it's global warming. So
El Nino in where I am in California is the heating up of the water, which can change the composition of clouds and fill them up with rain, with liquid. So, and I know I love it. I don't complain at all about water because here in California, we're like the breadbasket for the United States. And if we don't get water, they start pumping it. And honest to God, I'm kind of selective. I'm kind of a snob when it comes to my produce, and I like to eat organic. But you can tell the difference between pumped water and river water. It's weird. So, wow. Yeah, I want rain. We want to keep the rain.
Yeah. I just saw some, speaking of water temperatures, I just saw this big thing they're building. They have these big ships out there and they're turning water into steam and pushing it over the ocean to create all these clouds so they can, trying to cool the oceans down.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. And I was like, what is going on here? This is just, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. They don't even want to talk about the underground volcanoes that are heating the ocean,
There's a lot of really weird geological formations. I mean, you have Randall on the show. He probably gives you an earful every time he shows up, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, he's actually coming back on in
a couple weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Hey, you're sponsoring Cosmic Summit, aren't you?
No, but we're supposed to go this year. At least I think one of us will go to Cosmic Summit.
Yeah, I'm sponsoring for the first time. I just discovered those guys. They're on the other side of the country, but they got a great lineup. I'm happy to
Yeah.
see that. You know,
Oh, that's great. Hopefully you'll be there. We can meet you in person. That'll be great.
I can't do. I'm coming off a tour, so I won't.
Oh.
I'll be there in spirit. 2025. I'm going to try to get myself out there. I have an old girlfriend that lives just south of there, and she's been trying to get me to come out and visit, and that's a great excuse to come to the East.
There you go. Yeah. You got a lot going on in 2024, eh?
Yeah, we added Turkey on our tour schedule, and we initially launched it, and we had a great crowd, and then the war broke out, and I lost like 50% of my people because they just are not comfortable. So,
it's not a problem for Egypt though? Just
for some reason, Egypt is geographically further away by a few hundred miles, and so people are not as uptight about it. But I mean, the truth of the matter is, if they cross the border, Gaza and Egypt, they'd be in our face.
Yeah, but I guess there's the Sinai there to kind of buffer it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at the State Department in the United States, they have high level of concern, medium level, and it's okay to go. And they basically, the United States government doesn't want anyone from America to go to Egypt right now.
Oh, really? Wow.
Well, it's medium concern, and if a lot of the people that we have in the tour have really never traveled internationally, so they freak out. So, so you got to kind of let them know.
So you're doing Egypt and Turkey and ancient Maya too.
Yeah, we're doing our Yucatan tour, which is one of my favorite places. There's a lot of new digs in a city called Uxmal, and this is really where my great interest is. I'm trying to finish a book called The Maya Controversy. Archaeologists claim that the Maya are probably 3,000 or 4,000 years old, the earliest period, and it's beginning to look like there was, and we do know this now, that there was a pre-Maya or another period that they don't really talk about that much. And as they dig down further in some of these sites, they're finding temples. They're finding, I just posted on my Facebook page evidence of a huge flood that literally covered Uxmal and Chichen Itza and that whole northern Yucatan area.
Wow.
And I had a bunch of archaeological or anthropology students go, "Where'd you get those photographs?" Well, they're turn of the century. Most of them are 1890s when the first cameras were being used. And Augustus Lipleong got out there, who's kind of one of the first archaeologists, and he imaged Chichen Itza, Uxmal, and some of the other small cities along that area, even Koba. And this is before anybody was out there. And I imaged, I posted photographs of Uxmal and Sail, which is a small city south of Uxmal. And the buildings are totally weathered by water. And if you look closely at the images, there's sediment, rocks, and dirt coming out of the rooms, which means that the water was receding from this, from the flood. Now, we don't know if it's the Great Flood of 9,500 plus years ago. What I've found in my research is that they have been having monstrous tsunamis up until about 1,000 years ago. So this might have been a tsunami hit.
Fascinating. We just did a show on the Maya too, which is interesting, and we both found it fascinating, and we narrated this book, and I got to bring it up because Laplanant, that guy you mentioned, is in the book. It's called Prehistoric World or Vanished Races, and it's a pretty big tome, and it's fairly mainstream. Like, they avoid a lot of the controversy over the mounds and stuff, but they definitely mention how broad the Maya like how many things there are. They knew back then in the late 1800s how extensive these temples and pyramids were in the jungles. I mean, they had a
Yeah.
couple examples in there where like that you cannot believe how far how far you can see over like a 12-mile area. It's just filled with pyramids and temples. And then I was asking our guest,
Luke Cameron.
Luke, who is Luke Caverns.
Oh,
just
Luke, yeah.
like how it doesn't seem like science got very far since then in that area. Like I feel like we've kind of lost 150 years when it comes to the Maya, the Aztec, the Inca, all that.
So what's happening right now is a revolution in our understanding. Most archaeologists and anthropology students are working with data that's about 150 years old.
Oh, so from then, yeah.
So it's very, very old. And then when they graduate, they get a little bit of information, and then they can choose to become a field archaeologist, or they can be an academic, work on history, or they can be a research assistant. One of the big problems that we have when we deal with current studies is archaeologists, the pay is horrible. It's like between 40 and 60K. And here in the United States, you can't live on that. So there isn't a lot of new influx. People aren't interested in doing archaeological digs. On our show, we have an archaeologist named Jen Deo, who basically cut her teeth in Middle Eastern survey and excavation. But she only did it for a few years, and then she had to get out of it because she couldn't make a living. So she keeps writing about it, but she's not, a part of it. My whole thing is when you speak about Augustus Leon Pleong, is the fact that he actually learned Maya and could decipher the symbology, right? So him and Eric Thompson and a few other early archaeologists actually began discussing what was on many of these temples, stela, which are these standing stones. Pleong traces the Maya back to Egypt, and Atlan, which is Atlantis, I guess, and Mu. And he actually shows the documentation. Well, the science, the scientific method came about, and it disproved all that, because you can't prove Atlantis was around. You can't prove that Mu was around. You can't prove that the Maya migrated from another part of the world, right? That's the huge problem. We know now that you can jump on a boat and go from New Zealand to South America, or from China to California, and so forth and so on. But that's still a huge problem for academia. And this is the problem. And this is why I started my podcast. I'm constantly questioning history. I mean, I used to get kicked out of Sunday school because they'd be going, Cliff, Genesis is this, and here's the figures, and Noah. And I go, who's Jesus? Where did what's the documentation? And get out of here, leave. So it's all about questioning, and then not just questioning, collecting the scientists and the research investigators who are really beginning to reveal that there was this sophisticated culture or epoch prior to our known history. So it's a really, really big challenge. You guys do a great job with your guest list too. You got guys that are going, look what I found.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, I mean, go ahead, Darren.
Do you think that because you're able to run these tours successfully? We were able to do one to Egypt. We're doing some more local stuff. The bros and Ben are doing them, multiple tours a year now to Egypt, and the thirst for more just doesn't seem. I don't know if you're noticing the same thing, but it sounds like just more and more people just want to go. And it didn't seem like when we started out the show, there was a couple things like this, but they definitely weren't as extensive, and the options weren't there to sort of see it all at once, and the special permissions and the different things that are allowed. Is that the sort of thing that might be able to maybe re-stimulate some sort of an archaeological renaissance, or is in that some ways are Are
I
you,
think, yeah.
is that taking over for archaeology?
Archaeology will always have a place, though. I from the very beginning, and I started going down to Mexico in my first time in Yucatan was in 1995 with a girlfriend. A Mayan elder, a guy named Humbats Min, had befriended me. I don't know if you know my history. I used to be the program director for a very big conference called Whole Life Expo, which was all over the country. And so I got
I went in 95. I think
Did you
94,
really?
95. Yeah. 96.
Oh, they had one
maybe
in
back-
Toronto, didn't they?
I think mine was in California. I think I went to the
Oh, okay.
California
Yeah,
one.
San Francisco and LA. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I at its peak, Whole Life Expo was drawing like 25,000 people. And the reason it was a unique show is that we had not only spirituality and topics on personal growth. A lot before my time, they were introducing the question of previous civilizations, the evidence for them. And what was strange about it is, even though there wasn't necessarily artifacts and great discoveries, people just intuitively were going, I don't believe our history. It doesn't feel right. Something's missing. And I think it's the yearning to know more is what is unveiling right now. I mean, I'm finding more and more. I mean, we just talked about Cosmic Summit. Half those people that are on that show are PhDs, Younger Dryas studies, asteroid hit studies, early civilizations that go beyond the markers of C14 dating, because carbon 14 is only good to 50,000 years, and then it's like, huh?
If that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of questions. I discovered years ago, if a ruin city or an artifact has been covered in any kind of salt water, like the ocean, it throws off the dating of carbon 14. And
so the flood could have fucked up everything then.
So the flood is a big one. And if you look at that page on Facebook, go to Earth Ancients, look at the ruins of that city at Uxmal, and they're dating it for a few thousand years. And I'm getting a lot of pushback by the archaeological community. They've never seen these photographs before. And I'm like, well, look what the evidence here. It's visual evidence of a flood. And they're dating it using carbon dating. And remember, if that thing was underwater a couple hundred feet, which is what my hypothesis is, all the dates are going to be out the window.
So is that are those megalithic temples underneath that, all that stuff?
They're not necessarily megalithic, because when you think of megalithic, you're thinking of multi-ton slabs of granite and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they are brilliantly engineered, where they're using retaining walls to build up the base. And if you look at that's China. Go down a little bit.
Tell me when to stop.
Keep going. Keep going. Right there. This is look at this photo right here. Oh, the middle one. Oh, just click on the photos. Just click on the one. Okay. So that's not a great example, but that is water. See how high the sediment is in the dirt. There's another 4.5 to 5 feet of ground that they had to dig out. Go to another one. Go to another photograph. That's a good one. Keep going. I'll show you. There's one.
Oh yeah, look at the people in there. Yeah, how big it is. Yeah,
that's the actual. It's called the Pyramid of the Magician. Keep going. See the sediment and the rocks and crap coming out.
Yeah,
and the water. See, and that's a great example of rocks and dirt coming out after being underwater for God knows how long.
Just from the water sort of pulling back out of there.
Yeah. There's one towards the end that's the classic one that brought up a lot of. That's a good one. There you go.
That's all Uxmal. Still,
go back one.
This one.
Well, next one. Yeah, this is classic. The water, the water has literally torn the archway and collapsed the one next to it. And you can see huge volumes of sediment, dirt, rock, and debris that is settled as the water has receded. And this is
Where
taken
is
in
it? This is in Mexico.
that's Uxmal, which is in Yucatan, Mexico.
I've
And
never made it down that far. I've never made it down, I don't think, further south than Tulum, probably.
well, it's on Tulum is on the peninsula. So all you got to do is take the new Maya train and go up and connect with Uxmal.
Is the train going now?
Yeah, they just launched it.
We just heard about that the other day. Luke was just mentioning that. So, I mean, I was just telling the wife that I didn't have any reasons to go to Mexico anymore, but I might have just found one. So you just fly into Cancun for that then?
That's from what part of Canada are you in? Toronto?
Calgary.
Calgary.
The good part.
That's a cheap way to go. I prefer Merida, the capital of Yucatan, because it's colonial and you're right next to this natural museum that has some of the most outrageous sculptures you'll ever see. Little robot beings and outfits from a different epoch, you know.
We got a question from the chats. Does Cliff think the meteor that took out the dinosaurs was the Yucatan?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think it's, a lot of people say that the Gulf
Asteroid.
of Mexico could have been from the meteor that took out the dinosaurs.
That's a good point. The only problem with that is that's millions of years ago. And I'm thinking my gut feeling is that it could be several thousand to perhaps the end of the Younger Dryas.
So that would be like, so ending at the Younger Dryas sort of thing.
Yeah. So
shortly after.
9,500 BC, which is roughly 12,000 years ago.
And there's Uxmal right there.
Yeah.
Well,
train.
There was 400 feet less water then. So, I mean, we were just discussing this with Luke the other night, but I think we were talking to another fellow that it sounds like that whole Gulf of Mexico would have been a lake before the Younger Dryas. And a lot of that plateau would have been, I mean, who knows? Maybe we're going to start finding pyramids under there.
Well, one of the things that is fascinating is when they start using LiDAR scans, and it's so iffy in terms of areas that are scanned. Like down in Guatemala, they scanned the biosphere there, and you've heard about this. They found 60,000 unknown cities, pyramids, temples, and they were just casually scanning. Right?
Where is that? Is that up in this area here?
No, Guatemala.
Yeah, I'm in Guatemala right now.
Find Tikal. Tikal. It's Tikal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right there, right up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right up there. Yeah.
So they scanned 240 miles square, and I had Dr. Hansen, who's excavating El Mirador. He was part of that group that paid money to have the scan.
Wow.
He suggests, and he basically acknowledged that it's going to take 200 years to properly survey and even begin to excavate that area.
So we had Luke on, and he's still kind of stuck in this mainstream, and maybe it's right. Maybe that's why he's there. Is that, when Columbus comes over in 1492 into the Caribbean and the traders start coming and disease kind of rips through and it sort of slowly kills all of the Maya and up into North America and the Native Americans. But I mean, when you start talking about that many pyramids and that many cities and that much growth over it, I mean, do you think 600 years is enough? Do you prescribe to that theory, or do you think that this is the same sort of thing as in Egypt, where it's like, yeah, sure, there was some people there, but they were living in some shit they found?
So Carlos Barreros, who unfortunately died during the pandemic, was a Guatemalan elder who lived in the highlands. He wrote a book called the Ancient Maya 2012, in which he was told that at the height of the Mayan culture, there were 55,000 active pyramids from Yucatan all the way down to Honduras. And this goes back probably, and this is scary to talk about, at least 10,000 plus years, right? Probably more than that. I have trouble getting beyond 10,000, and I'm an college educated guy, but I'm not indoctrinated with archaeology and anthropology, which means that you have a firm stop. You can't go beyond this or you're going to be criticized. Now, on our tours in Mexico, we have Dr. Ed Barnhard, who's a mentor to Luke. And what he says is something that's amazing. He said there's only approximately less than 1% of excavated and known Mayan cities that have been unveiled. And that's basically 30 main cities that they've been excavated.
And when you talk about those main cities, so did you say Yucatan or Maya? Maya, right?
Maya, from Yucatan Peninsula, and then go all the way down to Honduras.
So this would be one, like that would be one, like Uzmo would be one example, right?
Yeah.
So only less than 1%.
So you can see Honduras to Yucatan. It's a lot of space. It's a lot of area.
Yeah.
If at its peak there were 55,000 active pyramids, why build the pyramids? Number one, and number two, what he says at the end of that chapter is they designed it so that during the fifth age, which we're in right now, 5,500 would still be active.
Wow.
Now, when we talk about pyramids, you have to remember guys like Chris Dunn and other engineers are discovering that their earth energetic focus. In other words, the most of them that are after a certain period and before that sit on geomagnetic fields, right? So they're getting energy bubbling up. There's crystalline quartz in the center, and many of them are have water channeled underneath of them, right? If you grab a copy of John Burke's book, Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty, he actually goes to Tikal in the World Pyramid and measures the energy that's coming out of this thing. So there's a pyramid science that is finally being revealed to us, which is blowing everyone away. You don't hear about it from mainstream science because it's too much for them to even consider. It's like, if you guys ever go to Yucatan and you see the El Castillo pyramid, it's like, why would they build this thing 300 feet high, designed and positioned for the cardinal points? And we now know it sits over a cenote, which is a water well underneath it with a river. The thing's an active energy generator.
So is this validating the whole ley line hypothesis and that whole sort of mythology?
It validates that, but more importantly, a scientist like John Burke actually used very sophisticated electromagnetic testing equipment and actually could test when the frequencies were the highest and where they were the lowest. What he discovered was that the local Maya were using it to enhance the propagation of their food crops. They'd take seeds and put them on top, and they let it sit there for a day. Their corn grows much larger. The yields are better, and their agriculture is amazing.
So it's almost like a form of electroculture, really.
Is exactly right.
But just without the copper, or maybe they had copper back then too. Who knows? But
no, these pyramids were actually activated by sitting on a geomagnetic telluric field that bubbles up. And remember, if the body of the pyramid is filled with quartz crystal, it's going to magnify that. And then you have the position,
the sacred dimensional shape as well.
Yeah. And so what Burke was measuring was really high levels of energy. And I don't think that they were made just to enhance your corn seeds, Yeah. I think there was something else.
Oh,
And
healing temples. I mean, all
healing.
like I
Yeah,
was watching one of your shows on the healing temples, and I mean, they were known to be. People would go there to heal, right? They'd have little rooms they'd sit in, and they'd stay overnight. I mean, there's the Egyptian Mysteries talks about all that, right?
exactly. But we take it one step ahead, and you look at Chris Dunn's new book called Tesla: The Giza Connection. Just came out. He believes that the Great Khufu Pyramid was a form of a generator of some kind. And his first book came out like 20 years ago, and he's changed his feeling about the generation of energy. But the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, the subterranean chamber, and now we know there's a lot of pockets of other rooms throughout the pyramid, all acted as some form of generation of energy. How it was distributed, we don't know. But one of the things that Dunn has come to understand is that the earlier epoch developed a science over thousands of years, and he basically calls their development earth scientists, earth energy scientists, because unlike us in our toxic nuclear energy or gas powered generators which pollute the air, the previous epoch was all about using natural energetics. And that's there's thousands of years of that. So what we see is like thousands of years of development.
Geomancy is probably what they would have called it back then. Right?
Sacred geometry. Exactly. Yeah. So
magical.
You guys got to go down to, from Canada, it's not that much to fly to Cancun. And then I rent a car and to see these places. And when you
rent a car to go see them, eh?
Oh yeah, you can take a bus, but then you got all the stops, right?
Yeah.
Renting a car is great.
Checkpoints or anything?
Say it again.
Is there any like weird checkpoints to go through or anything like that? Or
no, there's a pay highway, and then there's another basic highway that you have to run through every city. But if you go to the pay highway, I think it's $5 US, and it takes you right to Chichen Itza. And then we'll continue on and take you very close to Merida. So it basically cuts the peninsula in half.
We got a question from Ian Thorine in the chats. Would any of today's pyramids be considered active?
Yeah, the World Pyramid at Tikal is still active. I mean, Burke tested that maybe 10, 15 years ago. He didn't get around to testing all the pyramids, but that's the challenge. Chichen Itza, NASA tested Chichen Itza, the El Castillo, and Coba, which is a city close to the Caribbean, has an active pyramid. That's a very old site. I'm sure there's more. Esna in Campeche has an active pyramid in the center. Some friend of mine tested it with a handheld meter and got some really interesting readings. We don't know how many are active because no one's testing them. No one's scanning them.
So you've been to both places, and I mean, when you can't, pictures just don't do it justice. There's something about going to these places and seeing outside the frame and seeing a lot of them. So you've been to Egypt quite a few times now, in and out of all those pyramids, in and out of all those sites that the public doesn't get access to. And
yeah,
we've gone and done the Egypt one as well. So we can compare notes with you on that one a little bit more than down south. But there's very clearly some old shit in Egypt that's way older than the new stuff, and there's very clearly some weird tech or something going on there. I think it's the Assyrian, where you can see there's clearly some sort of massive stone sanding or some sort of flattening technique is being used there. And then on the smallest pyramid on the Giza Plateau, you can see it as well, where it's just like they've scooped it away. And there's the scoop marks at the Aswan quarry. Do you see any of that kind of stuff down in South America? Is there anything sort of alluding to that? It's the same sort of, because you
I
do kind of see it in South America, right? In South
I
America,
haven't been to Peru yet. We had we were going to do a tour in during the pandemic, and everyone kind of bailed. Plus, they weren't handling their citizens very well, and people were like just sick all over the place. So we didn't want to get on a plane and go down there. You guys know about Pumapuku, and that is an area that Burke tested, and the Tiwanaku, which is a pyramid area next to Pumapuku, he discovered that it's got a massive geological fissure that's bubbling up tons of energy, and he measured it in all of the stonework. So the stonework actually was a conductor, and so not only is the pyramid actively pulsing this energy, it's connected to the nearby buildings, so it's all kind of flowing. This is really exotic technology, you know. And the big problem we have is we don't have enough equipment to measure it. Burke dragged around with him like $100,000 worth of equipment in backpacks and in storage containers to test this stuff. Most people don't, first of all, have $100,000 to test it. And secondly, I mean, he waited all night on the World Pyramid at Tikal to make these, to do the testing. And so you got to be very dedicated to do that. But Pumapuku, if you guys have been there, haven't you?
no,
No,
we
no.
haven't. I've been to Egypt, and I guess I meant. Sorry, I meant Mexico. I guess. Do you see the same sort of stuff in Mexico where you have been? And I thought we should. I mean, I am interested because in South America, I've only seen the pictures now in South America, but there seems to be that same sort of the same nubs are in some of that stuff. And they seem to have the same sort of control over stone down there as
Prevalent
well.
in Mexico as you see in South America. But you guys have been to Egypt and you see them in some of the buildings there. I'm trying to think of the one stone building that is right next to Seti's temple.
The Osirian?
The Osirian. Have you guys saw that?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. That's like one of our favorite ones. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
That thing is such an anomaly. And what's really strange is when and if they ever pump the water, because it's right on an underwater aquifer that streams water. That thing is some kind of an engine, right? And I had a guy with a handheld tri-field meter put up against some of those pillars, you know, as you walk down in the middle. And some of the pillars were like really coming up with some amazing readings, but not all of them. So there's some kind of tech in there. And this is the big problem I have with archaeology, is that to really know about these previous civilizations, you have to do and focus on a multidisciplinary approach.
Yeah.
You got to get a chemist in there. You got to get an engineer in there. You got to get a field energy person in there. And I'll tell you, until we do that, we're going to be stumped. I'll tell you a great example. I was invited by Dr. Gomez, who excavated the pyramid at Teotihuacan, the snake pyramid, the serpent pyramid. I was lucky he invited us to go underneath the pyramid into this tunnel. And what they found in this tunnel, he didn't really care about. His whole goal was to find the body of a king. And they pull out all these artifacts. They had like 70,000 artifacts. Great. But when he was down in there, they found huge pools of liquid mercury.
Wow.
They found these really weird pyrite balls, these gold, pyrite's fool's gold, right? They found thousands of these balls. And the thing that really is weird is that I was talking to Ed Barnhart, who's a Mayanist.
Oh, damn. That was right at the good part.
And
You
when I
froze.
mentioned this, he sent me some photographs of aerial shots of this pyramid, and they had underground and surface canals taking water from the nearby river, and they were being distributed into this tunnel. And when you get in there, there's a huge watermark that goes through the whole tunnel. Tunnel is 300 feet from end to end. And Gomez wasn't even interested in the water, what the mercury was all about, why the pyrite was in there. And my whole thing was, did they do an analysis of the dirt? Because they found 100,000 tons of dirt that they had to excavate. 100,000 tons. It took them 10 years.
Wow.
But
I mean,
they
that
weren't.
sounds very alchemical. I mean, we're talking about, using mercury and in an alchemical process to make gold or fool's gold. I mean, it's weird. It's weird. Like that's what it makes me think of right away.
We weren't allowed to take pictures, but I had a couple of guys that had GoPro cameras on their chests, and I got a few shots. At the very end of the tunnel, which is directly underneath the pyramid, the ceiling is dark, like it's been there's some kind of combustion that's going on.
Right.
So, have you looked into drum stuff at all?
Like
Jeffrey
beating drums?
No, Jeffrey Drum.
Land of Chem.
Land of Chem, Chemical Egypt. He thinks they were chemical processing plants.
I wouldn't be surprised. One thing that I did discover is that people call that big city in Mexico Teotihuacan, but the Teotihuacan were the later people who showed up after this place was built, right? And you know why we know this? Because this tunnel that I was in was fed water from this perfectly formed circle, which was a well opening, and then it dropped into this tunnel. Well, the Teotihuacans or Teotihuacans went behind the tunnel and dug to connect with the tunnel. So they weren't the original people. And they filled it with a bunch of idols. The guys who built Teotihuacan were engineers and mathematicians. They took water and they would carry it and then have it dump into a cistern, which is a holding tank. And then through various valve systems would distribute it into toilets, into washrooms, and into what looks like early kinds of baths. So,
wow, that's fascinating. So you get the sense that there was newer temples built on these older sort of foundational works, from potentially pre-Younger Dryas type thing, like a global civilization that has now been built on over and over again since the
I think
cataclysm.
Some people think that the Teotihuacan was 50, 60, 100,000 years old, but those are insane numbers.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, why not? Well, conventionally, we can't consider that because our own scientists cannot conceive of a date like that.
Yeah.
And that's the big stumbling block we have. Yeah. If we find extremely old societies, our science will not validate it. This is the big problem we have right now.
I mean, it's getting closer and closer. I mean, we're getting pushed farther and further back. I mean, even just humans, it was 200,000 years, and now it's 300,000-400,000 years. I mean, it's already doubled over the last 10 years. The accepted mainstream sort of paradigm of how long we've been around.
Yeah.
And there's that one in Indonesia that seems to be causing a fuss about being
Gunung Padang.
Gunung Padang, maybe.
Yeah, Gunung Padang's. I had Dr. Danny on the show years ago when they shut him down. It's funny because they shut him down when he did a carbon dating to 20,000 years in the past, right? But he had still 2 levels to go. And so wouldn't it be weird if he did a dig and a core that came up like 50,000 years ago? I mean,
Yeah.
if you saw Graham's Ancient Apocalypse, that was the first one. That was number one. That was the first program of him going out to Indonesia and talking to Danny Hillman. And so many geologists and archaeologists were still putting him down. He's like, oh, these are tainted samples. It's not possible that human beings were around then. Why not?
There's blocks because you've been to Karnak, and there's like a few blocks off to the edge there that no one really notices. There's like 3 of them there, and
Well, they're not in the. They're still in the
maybe
center.
they're in the center, but they're not like part of the central temple. They're kind of like off in the grass, and they're granite blocks, and they're so weathered that we had a geologist in the group, and he was just like, there's nothing built. There's nothing. It's a fucking square granite block in the ground that you can tell had been worked. And he's like, dude, this is tens of thousands of years of weathering on this rock. He's like, this is too. It was
Flooding,
the one rock
like
thing that was too much for him. He's like, there's no explanation for this that doesn't involve tens of thousands of years. Before, and the thing is, there was the corners where they had, so it's not like they had worked a weathered block. They had the corners were weathered. The notch of the little key thing was weathered. So this whole thing had been seemingly masoned, or whatever they call it, 20,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago. I said to him specifically 50,000 years, and he, wasn't against it. He wouldn't be like, yeah, but he was like,
it's funny because we have our education, and it's like history says before the Egyptians, we were hunters and gatherers, I mean, there's Sumerians, but then there's hunters and gatherers. If you start pushing beyond that with dates, it just fucks everybody up. The scientists can't touch it. This is why I have such a problem with the National Geographic and the Smithsonian Institute, is that they are the historians. They're the ones who are sending out this information, and you're not getting this coverage over these anomalies in Egypt, in Mexico, in South America. Even in the United States and Canada, there's a native archaeologist who's redating settlements in current North America. And, it's like, up until she came around, it was like, 16,000 years ago, there were settlements in present day New Mexico, or there were settlements in present day Ontario. And, we have flint arrows to justify that. Well, she's come back and using oral traditions to push it way back, and also redating these sites. And now the average site, and she's found like 25 or 30 of these places in North America. The average age is 130,000 years ago.
Wow. What are some of the other?
Sorry, Graham. Wasn't there a lady that found some fire pits down in Mexico and down in Southern America and in Northern Mexico? And like way before this shit all started, way before Graham Hancock. And she said that those fire pits were, I think, 25 or 30,000 years old. And I remember listening to her, and she was like, I was just saying, she's like, I wasn't saying there was a civilization or anything. She's like, the science says these fire pits are 25,000 years old. And she was like, run out of the business.
Her career was ruined. If you had her on your show, you guys were really fortunate.
I don't think we had her on the show. I listened to her on another show.
Okay.
Years. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember her name, but she was I believe she was a geologist, and she brought in archaeologists. She actually dug down a few feet and found a number of different levels, and then dated the core samples. It came back to 20 plus thousand years ago with tools in those various sediments, and they couldn't accept it. So they shut her down. They blocked and filled the dig area.
Wow.
And she had her career ruined.
Ugh.
So
I can't find it. Do you think they're going to say sorry now?
looking at whose book has it? Michael Cremo has it in his book.
That's where I think I seen it on his Forbidden Archaeology
Yeah.
documentary.
Yeah, I actually interviewed him about her a few years ago, and I can't think of her name. But she passed away recently, and because I was really wanting her on the show, she wasn't available. I think at some point we have to recognize that the tools that are part of conventional science are not valid anymore.
Right.
Because if you have to do blind studies to validate the authenticity of something, then you're only going to be able to go so far. And when you use the scientific method, you can't deal with civilizations that may be 20, 30, 40, 50,000 years or older. One of the things that I've come to in my conclusion, and you guys have been there in Egypt, is that many of the temples, and I'm also mentioning the Khufu pyramid, but like Hathor Temple, Karnak, and other temples were repurposed. My belief is that they were built perhaps 20, 30, 40,000 years ago. That civilization died off, and the pre-dynastic into the dynastic pharaohs repurposed them. And one of the things that Muhammad Ibrahim, who's our guide when we're in Egypt, and he just finished a new book on this, has come to understand is people like Ramses and Seti put their cartouche on these cities, on these temples, on these statues as an ego. Like, I'm here, this is part of my reign, when they were actually from an earlier period. So when I say repurposed, not just the temples, and we see this at Hathor there's thousands of years of updates and changes and migrating cultures. But we see it all through Egypt in this repurposing and these egotistical pharaohs going, hey, that kind of looks like me, that statue. So I'm going to put my cartouche on there. And this is something that Egyptologists will not admit. It's like, oh, no, I couldn't have been. The ego, because everyone thinks Ramses II was a wonderful builder. I'm really beginning to think that he was just repurposing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same as we went with the Komet school when we went.
Yeah.
Virginia Steen McIntyre.
There she is.
That is right, if I remember correctly. So you've been doing this about as long as we did. Were you in all the way into the mysteries when you started it? Has it gotten deeper since you got in it? And how has it affected everything else? Because we started out this podcast just want to do paranormal and am I cut out?
Yeah, just lost you for a minute.
So
yeah, I heard that. So I've been kind of a spiritual person since I was very young. If I'm really honest, and I wouldn't have said this a few years ago, you come back into a lifetime because you needed to finish something, right? So I incarnated to be a provider of knowledge, to remember these earlier periods. And when I was a program director, I had people that were everything you can imagine. Personal growth means what? Spirituality, channeled information, angels,
healing,
everything, And so I'm kind of an open book to that stuff, but I'm also very skeptical. I was one of the, not me personally, but I was very much interested in UFOs way back when, and had guys like Dr. John Mack at the program and Bud Hopkins, some of the early, not necessarily investigators, because prior to them, there were other people at the turn, like in the 1950s and 60s when the waves started coming on the UAPs. But these guys, if you don't know who John Mack is, he was a psychiatrist at Harvard who almost ruined his career by analyzing people who had been abducted, right? And discussing their experience with off-world types. Well, I've been into it so long that I'm at the point now where I'm like, land your goddamn ship, come out, say hello, tell us what planet you're from and where we as a civilization fit in the scheme of things, right? So, and right now it's like, oh, great. The Navy, the United States Navy and other armed forces have taken pictures of Tic Tacs and they've discovered the UAPs are, here and, what are they doing? Well, they don't know, the
Not only
technology.
that, now
Huh?
we wonder if not only that, now we wonder if we can trust them.
Yeah. Well, you guys are in Canada and you had what was it? Was it a minister that actually,
Hellier. Yeah.
yeah, when he retired, he was like spilling the beans, man. He's like, there's this many races that are visiting the world. I mean, if we had a guy like that in the United States, you hear him one time and you never hear him again.
So has it jaded you at all or made you more cynical about
That's what I'm saying.
about life in general? Because it's hard to keep doing this and find out that the state has lied to you about history and they've been lying to us about all these different things. And I mean, you talked about John Mack. I mean, some people think he got killed for what he was getting into. And how, because we tend to avoid it too, but other people get sucked into this thing where it's like you can get sort of jaded on life just because it just sort of, the longer you do a podcast on these sorts of things, it just seems like the more and more things that you find out that they're lying to you about.
But Darren, you must know, and Graham too, you guys have been doing it long enough. You can see and feel a resurgence and also kind of an opening. This information isn't so woo-woo anymore.
Totally.
It's like when I was, in my 20s, it was like, you're in the new age. And let's get into crystals and let's meditate and let's, navigate the cosmos in our, in our
Consciousness.
Yeah, whatever. Oh, I was going to say psychic readings,
Yeah.
Well, all this is, that's the foundation. And what's happening now is our science is beginning to validate these unseen energies. And as we become more aware that this is what we're surrounded with and we can validate it, then it's like, well, it's not woo-woo anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying about the UFOs. I'm like, for years, it's like, okay, the ships landed and there was, the guy got abducted and okay, that, but what else?
Yeah.
The problem is that as a culture, I think that we're not ready to have face-to-face quite yet. I think we got a few years to go. And it's an indoctrination. We see the ships. Occasionally they land. Somebody has a really high-res camera. They can take a picture. I had a NASA astronomer on who published a book of his of UFOs in Los Angeles coming through what looked like a Stargate. And he had pages and pages of this shit. When NASA found out, the Men in Black came to visit him, and his life hasn't been the same. But it's like, why not show this stuff?
I think, what I think, I'm beginning to think this because I'm right there with you. I mean, we've been talking about UFOs for 11 years and I've seen enough myself. I've gone out and CE5 them and stuff like that. But I mean, now I think that our reality is so complicated and complex, maybe even dark, maybe not what we want to know, maybe we're ants in this reality, and I don't know if we can even understand, like they would have to kind of like, give it to us in little bits, which why not? But I mean, I just think that's why the government won't let us know either, because it might be a little bit more messed up than we think.
I think there's a bunch of secrecy. I think that our government is antiquated. I'm writing a book right now on the Black Knight satellite.
Oh, right.
And in 1960, NASA had the Brookings Institute do a survey on what the reaction would be of United States citizens to the unveiling or the first contact scenario. 1960, right?
Yeah.
And in that document, they basically say that people would freak out, they would kill themselves, institutions would fail, churches would dry up, and it would be mayhem, right? Well, the problem with that is that that's 1960. They're still following that today.
Yeah,
That's how
exactly.
backward our country
Yeah.
is, you know?
Yeah, I think we're ready for it. I mean, all these other countries, like you said, there's other countries. France was open to it. South America, a little bit more so. Like we really are falling behind in that respect for sure.
As a culture. The other thing is the NASA did Department of Defense did another survey where they went to theologians, which are priests and rabbis and other church leaders, and again asked them the same questions, and the same thing came up. Well, they would leave religion, they would want to kill themselves, and so on. My whole thing about that is like, why are you asking the church? Because people are leaving the church in droves. Why don't you ask the social media leaders, YouTube, Facebook, X, which was formerly Twitter, get their feeling about it? And I swear to God, you're going to have people go, bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on, man. We want to see this stuff.
Yeah. So what do you think some of the, like you were mentioning how the dating should be going, like we're stuck with our science and all that. What are some of the main evidences you think are there that you pay attention to that would push the date back? Like if you were to give like, you know, a team of archaeologists or like an institute, like, hey, here's the evidence that I've found or that I know about. What do you think that would be?
So the big one is, and you guys know this one. You go to Egypt, right? You go to the Hathor temple. You guys have been to the Hathor, right? In Dendera.
Dendera, yeah.
Beautiful temple, right? Well, they're very meticulously slow at digging and excavating. But about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, they've discovered that that temple sits on a very early temple underneath it. In fact, if you look around on the outer edges of the interior floor, there's the top of the columns of the temple underneath.
Yeah.
There's some weirdness about Egypt's antiquities department. They won't do ground penetrating radar. They won't sink any kind of camera work into that area. They have found the crypts. You guys have been in the crypts, right? In Hathor, there's those rooms that you go down under the floor.
Yep. You go all the way to the small tunnel there. Yep.
Yeah. Did you go to the one that you see the Dendera light bulb?
Yeah.
You saw that, right?
Yep, that's right.
They've opened a couple of more since then, which is still sub-level. So we have a block in our knowledge. I think it's also a fear of a big discovery. You know what I mean? If they were to date this temple underneath the Hathor temple and it is like 20,000 years old, they're going to shit.
Yeah.
It's like, why do they shit? Because they have to rewrite everything.
Yeah.
It's rewriting the story.
There were spots at Karnak where you could see the tops of old columns as well. They have that spot like blocked off. I tried to go in there. They chased me out. And then they were like chasing me around Karnak. It's kind of comical because I just know they want money.
Well, it's worth it sometimes. And here's a great example.
Sometimes I keep a pocket full of $20 bills just in case I need to get in someplace. Yeah.
I you know about the high quality carved stone vases and plates that they found at Saqqara, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you'll get a kick out of this one, Cliff.
Oh, dude, you got one.
I got one.
Oh, hold on a second. I'll show you what I got.
Don't tell Ben. That, of course, for people who haven't seen before, this is my piece of granite vase that I took from underneath the bent pyramid. Was it the bent pyramid, Graham, or the step?
I get them mixed up in the red and the bent and the step.
The one that has all the stuff underneath it.
So Adam Young used to be on my show, and Adam has these complete vases, right? And he was on the show maybe 8-9 years ago. He had a full vase. Back then, you could get one for a few grand. Now they're 10, 20, 30 grand. I asked my leader Muhammad if he could get
Ooh.
me a piece. So he put me in touch with an archaeologist that was excavating Saqqara. Look at this cup. This is
Yeah.
solid stone. Oops,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
It's perfectly cut down the middle.
That's beauty.
And then this one is just the top of a vase.
Ooh, that's a good one too. How'd you
Yeah.
get that big one out? I had to stick mine in my boot.
You know, it's funny because I think the reason they only gave me fragments is if they had opened my bag and seen a whole vase, I would have been screwed.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Dude, when I left Egypt, I had we had to stop in the hotel quick on the way because I had taken these rocks. I bet you I came home with like 18 pounds of rocks and
Whoa.
like 10 pounds of antibiotics and then a bunch of all this stuff that we can't get here in Canada. I was like, I just try and take a little shaving or a little piece of this or a piece of that from each site. And
Well, I think what you're going to find out is that these vases, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the latest about the analysis, how it's following these mathematical transversal patterns.
That's Ben and I don't, you guys know him. And then Chris Dunn's son, Alex, did that analysis. You know, it's funny because we don't have the technology really to look very deeply into those things. It's like they need to, we know the thinness of the walls and the cutting, but no one is saying how it was cut.
No. But I mean, even just from a sacred, there seems to be some, let's say, just some magic involved with why it was made. Almost like I think that's what the key is to this, is that there's some nature aspects, some sacred geometry aspect. Like you talked about the ley lines and harnessing this energy. Well, we'll probably find that the volume is a special octave of volume, or there's some kind of there's some amazing reason why it's that size and why it follows those mathematical patterns, because you wouldn't be making a vase these days in any kind of pattern.
Yeah, I think George Leonard has been talking about that. He runs and produces Cosmic Summit.
Yeah, George Howard. Yeah.
George Howard, sorry.
Yeah.
And he's kind of thinking that it could be not necessarily a vase for putting liquid or something in, but it had another purpose. Perhaps we don't know. But the cutting, whatever the technique is fairly very advanced.
Yeah, there's clear machine marks on mine. So I got one more to show you here, because I took another chunk, and we had the same geologist that was on the trip with us was also a jeweler, a hobby jeweler. So I had him make these out of the other chunk that I brought home.
Did you go down the Saqqara shaft to grab yours, or did you just say I need to find somebody who could sell me stuff?
We were underneath the bent pyramid.
Oh, the bent pyramid. Okay.
It's I don't know if it's the bent or the step. It's the one that's not beside the red pyramid.
Well, there's the bent and then the red pyramid, and then you go to Saqqara, and that's the Dojur pyramid.
It must have been the step pyramid. So it's the bent pyramid that's next to the red pyramid.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was the one that was on its own. So it must have been this. Oh, sorry. It must have. Oh God.
Did you make this? Looks like jewelry.
Yeah, my buddy made jewelry. Yeah, I had him made pendants for all my daughters and my sister, and earrings for my mom and me mom. He's probably watching. Hi, mom, and a ring for my missus.
That's really nice, dude. That's great.
I went back and forth because I wasn't sure if it would be like cursed or something, or what the thing was. But I was like, this shit is gonna sit under here until it's smashed into dust, or until the Egyptian government changes and no one's allowed to come back. Or I feel like it's better off being turned into some jewelry than turning into nothing where it's at. Because when you go there, you really realize how precarious this access and the situation over there kind of is. And it's like, at any moment, especially with the new bricks and everything else, it seems like anytime I could find out that going to Egypt ain't an option anymore.
Well, their income is based on tourism. So they're trying to keep their doors open as much as possible. Some people don't care. Like I said before we started, I had a good sized group that was going to come with me in April, and I lost half of them because of the volatility of the war and also how close it is. It isn't that close, but if you're flying, it's really, really close, and then again, the American State Department's like, don't go. There's trouble there. Don't go, not saying you can't go, but just be careful. So I've always felt safe in Egypt. I mean, I don't leave the hotels and go wandering off. That's just kind of crazy, but it's made for tourism. Now, the real big problem is they've had this Grand Egyptian Museum sitting idly for years. And I'm going to be a little crass about my feeling about this. It's very poorly organized. They have $1 billion museum with what is now known as the largest artifacts collection in the world, and they can't seem to open it. You would think
we were
that
supposed to go in 2022, and from what I hear, it's still not open. The people who went on the 2024 tour still couldn't go.
It's like an embarrassment for the city because the money that this thing could generate would be probably several hundred million a quarter, and the thing's a monster, but they can't seem to get beyond a problem here, a problem there. It's almost like another organization needs to take over that understands how to run a museum and just charges the antiquities department a fee, because I've been waiting 6 years now and we don't even think about it. And you guys know this. You go to Cairo and the old museum's still there, right? Downtown. And they got a couple of good pieces, but it's not like,
And then you're driving by the new one on the way to the hotel.
And everyone's going, can we go? Can we go? And you're kind of like, it's not open. Sorry.
So do you have a trip coming? Can you let us know before we wrap up what your trips are this year and where people can sign up for those?
Sure. Yeah. Our Grand Egyptian Tour is April 28th through May 9th. You can read about the itinerary, which we're updating constantly, by the way. You can go to earthancients.com/tours.
Do you guys do the Nile cruise?
We do the part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do Nile, which is kind of cool, right? You guys have done that, right?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The Nile cruise is really nice. It's also great if it's really hot out. So, oh yeah, there you go. And then we are in Turkey, August 14th through the 24th. We're going to be in Cappadocia. They reopened Derinkuyu, the underground city. We'll be in Göbekli Tepe. Karahan Tepe, they just closed, so we won't be able to go there. But we'll be in 12 days in Turkey. Some of the museums I've been wanting to go for eons. And then the final tour of the year is Mexico, Yucatan, Mexico. It's the Pyramid Tour. It is November 8th to the 17th. We all meet in Merida, and we learn how to climb pyramids. We start with the Mayapan Pyramid, which is in northern Yucatan. And by the end, your skill is so good that you can climb the Grand Pyramid at Uxmal and also some smaller pyramids around the city of Merida.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can see all of them at earthancients.com/tours.
Man, I was looking at that Mexico one thinking I might go, but we have an event that same weekend here in Canada.
You guys are hanging out with Randall. He must be like fun, man, because he's like he can talk forever.
Randall's a character. Yeah, he's I was actually just talking to him yesterday, booking him for the show in 2 weeks, but we have another event coming up with him in May. If people want to get tickets for that, they go contact at thecabin.com. Of course, we have I think there's like 7 spots or 8 spots left for that. And then we have another one with Randall, the Columbia Gorge Tour. in the fall. But yeah, I don't know. We were lucky enough to get to know Randall and become good friends, and now we're doing all these events with them. This will be our fifth Scablands tour, Graham.
Wow.
Yeah, fifth or sixth. Yeah.
So you guys actually meet in what, Seattle, and then go out to the gorge?
We go to the Spokane. We use Spokane for both of them.
Spokane. Oh, right.
Yeah.
And then you just
because
drive
there's a couple sites that are closer to Spokane that we want to hit for sure. So yeah.
down.
And then
Excellent.
this is the gorge is the first time we've done that section of Washington. So
So do you
this will
guys
be
take a weekend, 4 days?
a
and
week,
do it?
4 or 5 days. Yeah.
So you have is there like a museum? I have a book by one of the geologists who first, I think Randall suggested in his lectures, who's one of the early geologists who actually made that call that it was a huge wave that carved all that.
Yeah.
We start in Spokane. We stay right at the Soap Lake Resort. So we stay like right at the bottom of the coulee. We're about 15 minutes from the Dry Falls, which is the big one he uses in his Joe Rogan experience. So
Cool.
it really is. It's something else. I said I wasn't going to go back to Egypt, but I'm feeling the hanker and seeing the pictures again. I might go back next year. We'll see.
Do that, or you're always welcome to join our tours. Mexico is very reasonable. Remember, it's like 22 pesos to $1. So a Canadian dollar is probably a little less, but your money goes really far.
Yeah.
And you don't have to sit on a plane to Cairo because that's a long flight.
That's exactly what kills me. That's what it's like. It's too much. The flights to get to even to Europe, because the Tychos guys want me to go. They're having their first Tychos space model conference this summer. And I'm like, dude, that's 10 hours in that plane seat. I don't know if I could do it, man. I'll drive 30 hours like tomorrow. Let's go. Because I can stop my truck whenever I want. I can get out. I can do things. I'm not stuck in their weird little system. But the planes are almost too much for me. And you know how it is, because once you get east of the UK, man, the leg room gets shorter and shorter.
Yeah, I used to have trouble flying because I don't sleep in planes, right? So I'm in San Francisco, so it's like 22 hours. You fly from San Francisco to Frankfurt. I fly Lufthansa because the European airlines just have more amenities. And then you do a layover in Frankfurt, and then you fly 4 more hours to Cairo, and you're just cooked. And
then go.
Yeah, then it's like you're the host. Hey, welcome. How you doing? And you're feeling like sandbags on your legs. So
you don't sleep for the first 3 or 4 nights. So what about the podcast? Where can people get the podcast? And
any place you get your podcast. Earth Ancients has been around, celebrating our 10th year. Whatever your distribution center is, wherever you get your podcast. If you don't have a distributor, and that's iTunes or Skype, not Skype, but Spotify, whoever you get your podcasts with is great. If not, go to earthancients.com, and we have each episode going way back to the the beginning of podcasting.
Feels like it sometimes. And when we started, we weren't sure if we were too late or not.
Too late?
Well, that's how we had conversations when we started the show in 2013, because it seemed like there was already so many shows. We're like, well, is it?
They faded. You guys are to be applauded. And let me tell you why. I used to help people launch, and that's how I launched mine. I was helping 2 clients. I was a marketing consultant, and this is like 2009. And they're like, will you launch a podcast for me? I really want to learn about it. I really want to try it. And the thing about it is, it was easy to launch. It's still easy to launch, fairly easy to launch a podcast. But the thing about it is, and this is where you need to be applauded, is consistency. Even when you don't feel like doing it,
I knew you were
put something on.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a kick-ass guest, you make it interesting. And that's the key. That's the key, is consistency. You're doing it, and you guys rock. I like your website. You have like really cool little graphics for each episode, and you're putting energy into it, a positive, creative energy. And that's why your audience loves you guys. So
thanks, man.
Rock it. Keep on rocking.
Thanks, man. That's great.
Kind words. Happy 10 years.
Thanks,
for
dude.
sure. And here's to 10 more. And I might take you up. I might show up on one of your Mexico tours here yet.
You got my email, send it to me. Egypt's not cheap because the flights are so damn expensive, and then the hotels. But Mexico, cheap, and the food is amazing.
And it's chill. It's 4 hours. Jump on the plane for 4 hours and you're there.
From where you are, yeah. The other thing, and I always tell this about people, and this goes for most countries outside of the United States, their museums have so many anomalies that'll blow you away.
Wow.
Little figures holding technology, guys riding in airplanes. I have a collection of little figurines that are wearing full-on spacesuits. And for the years, the archaeologists would say, well, that's a ceremonial suit. And I'd say, no. This guy's got a visor. He's got a breathing apparatus. He's got air tanks on. He's got heavy gauge suit. They're not ceremonial. Come on.
They might be having glimpses of the future or the past.
Deep past. Yeah. So the museums in Mexico are just world class.
I've never gone to Mexico and like not done the resort thing, so I might just have to do that. I could show up on that one yet. Cliff, this has been great. Let's not wait 10 years to do it again.
Darren, Graham, a pleasure to meet you guys. Keep it rocking, buddies.
Thanks. See you later.
Yeah. And that was a chat with the one and only Cliff Dunning, Earth Ancients. It's hard to believe it took 10 years to have him on, but great chat.
Yeah, that was a blast. Yeah. Fantastic. It was great to do some more Maya Yucatan stuff again. Just kind of ingrain that in me, I'm blown away by how much is out there. My friend Rye lives there in Campeche. He's got to get on this, man.
We should be sending him out in the field. If it's 22-1, then we could get him for like fucking $3 an hour.
Rent that car. Let's go for a ride.
Rent the car, get some Mexican weed, and I will go pyramid hunting together anytime. You tell me. So big thanks to Cliff for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Guys, big thanks if you're our supporters. We couldn't do this we don't have enough supporters. We really don't. So we did start doing the thing where if you do support the show, grimerica.ca/support. Well, if you sign up for a new monthly or make a one-time donation, send in a note and we'll read it on the show. Read your note, give you a little shout out, and say thanks to you because we couldn't do the show without you. So do that, and we'd love you for it. Of course, the live guys will be back in a couple weeks. We got some great shows coming up in 2 weeks. Charlie Robinson and Randall Carlson. I forget who else on the Tuesday. And of course, we'll have next week, no shows, but we do have the roundup coming up every Wednesday on Grimerica Outlawed for people who are into that. GrimericaOutlawed.ca. Grimerica.ca/support to support this show. And adultbrain.ca for all the audiobooks. The website just got a facelift. So you can head over to adultbrain.ca and get the audiobooks. Every way you can get our audiobooks, you can kind of get through there, other than buying them. If you're buying audiobooks someplace, then if you just search Graham Dunlop or Adult Brain, our books will come up. But if you go to adultbrain.ca, that'll get you to the YouTube, to the podcast, all that kind of stuff. America.ca/swag if you want swag. America.ca/support for support. AmericaOutlawed.ca for outlawed. Contact at the cabin for all those trips we were talking about. Let us know.
The swag shop might be it might need a little bit of attention. The swag shop might be a little overwhelming for people. It's filled with one big design that's quite controversial. So
is it?
Yeah, you should see the front of it.
Is it the Unvax Lives Matter one?
Look at it. This is the front page of the swag shop. Oh, look, there's the Grimerica logo, and then just boom.
Bum, 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 bum. All right, guys. We love you. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.
Teach me all your secrets to get a good handle on a better way to live. How does one get out of bed every day in the throes of the apocalypse? Should I bury my head in the sand or sabotage their evil plan? I feel really trapped An ant burned by a magnifying glass. It's all a little bit too convenient. All the evidence went up in flames. Phonies, fraudsters, scammers belong in the slammer. My friend, best give up their names. Should I call on militiaman or pass out a petition pen? I feel really trapped. An ant burned by a magnifying glass. I don't know what y'all been told, but I got a soul made out of gold. Sound off, 1, 2, sound off, 3, 4, cadence count, 1, 2, a big ball. Some time ago a crazy dream came to me. I dreamt I was walking into World War III. As prophetic as humidity, as aching bones, as frantic animals. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now she floats it down a river dark. As prophetic as deja vu, as wormwood, as falling stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now she floats it down a river dark. I can't even hear my own thoughts for the life of me over the din of a bruised and broken culture. The media spins and splatters and spins and clatters, and I cringe because it's psychological warfare. Don't you feel yourself getting really mad? How did we let it get this bad? Don't you feel really trapped like a brain in a vat? Trying really hard to close Pandora's box, but sirens are singing me off a cliff. I'm looking to hitchhike to Shangri-La over yonder. Sophia, would you give me a lift? Hopped out of the Hegelian rebellion. Say goodbye to all you Machiavellians. Let evil destroy itself. I'm bound for Shangri-La. Shangri-La. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. As prophetic as morning doves, as groundhogs, as fallen stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now we're floating it down a river dark. As prophetic as white wolves, as butterflies, as rainbows. Sophia sings it now. We built a plane, now we're taking flight above a river bright. As prophetic as white wolves, as butterflies, as rainbows. Sophia sings it now. We built a plane, now we're taking flight above a river bright. La da da da, la da da, la da, la da da, la da 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 da, la 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 Shangri-La. La 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 Shangri-La.